What is going on, everyone? My name is Jason, and this is 6 months with the iPhone XS Max. So in September of 2018, Apple debuted two additional phones to the much hyped and well-received iPhone X, the XS and the XS Max. Whereas the XS was pretty underwhelming considering that it looked virtually identical to the iPhone X, the XS Max was a bit more interesting as it was Apple's first plus-size phone that adopted the more modern smartphone design that was introduced with the X. Now, as exciting as the phone was when it was first announced, it was almost immediately put into the spotlight due to the phone's price tag. The base model XS Max costs $1,099, making it still one of the most expensive phones in the market today. Now, given the exorbitant price tag, it put a lot of people on the fence on whether or not they should drop a huge bag on the XS Max or thug it out a little longer with their older iPhone. Well, I've had my XS Max since it launched back in September, and I wanted to do a follow-up review on what it's been like using the phone on a daily basis for the past 6 months, and whether or not I think it's worth it. Now, this isn't going to be a review going over the XS Max in heavy detail, so if you're looking for something more specific, I'll leave a link to the comprehensive review I did on the XS Max on the right-hand corner of the screen. Now, before we get into the review, if you're into checking out the latest consumer tech products before you buy them, or if you're just a tech head like me, I make a video like this every single week, so make sure that you hit that subscribe button and turn on that bell icon so you can be the first to know when a new JSL review is out and you don't miss anything. And real quick, if you guys picked up an iPhone last year, which one did you guys end up going with? The iPhone X, XS, XS Max, or the XR? Let me know in the comments below. Curious to see what most people went with. Okay, that being said, let's get into the XS Max. So when it comes to the phone's build and physical design, it's not really surprising to say that it's in the top tier of best phones available today. Apple is known to go the extra mile when it comes to build material and design execution, and that sentiment is really exemplified with the XS Max. The glass that sandwiches the phone melts into the stainless steel frame in such a seamless way, it truly makes it feel premium in the hand. The glass used is also harder and in turn more scratch resistant than glass used on other flagship phones, and Apple's choice to use stainless steel further sets it apart, and I have to say you really do feel a difference between it and aluminum. It's warmer and softer to the touch, and the dark finish that Apple was able to pull off in the space gray model makes for one of the sleekest, tastefully subdued phones I've ever had. And you can see, even after 6 months of pretty regular usage, the phone is still immaculate. Given I do use cases and skins for protection, but there's no physical sign of wear and tear anywhere on the phone, which speaks to the quality standards that Apple holds themselves to. Overall, the XS Max is still an outstanding phone when it comes to physical design, and will likely stay that way for years to come. Okay, so a lot of you might be wondering, what's it like using the XS Max on a daily basis? And I have to say, after using the phone for 6 months, this is probably my favorite iPhone I've ever had. I mean, iOS is renowned for its refined user experience, and it being powered by the A12 Bionic chip makes for the most smooth, lag-free software implementation I've had the pleasure of using. And no joke, this phone hasn't slowed down one bit in terms of performance. Despite multiple software updates and heavy usage of the phone's internal storage, apps still load crazy fast. And look, I know this is a touchy subject, but the optimization of a lot of the apps are better suited for iPhones. And when you have one as powerful as the XS Max, it truly makes for an enjoyable, carefree user experience. Battery life has also been pretty good on the XS Max. I mean, it was never class leading considering how big this phone is, but from a day-to-day usage standpoint, I've never had any issues getting through the day on a single full charge over the past 6 months. Now, a big part of how you interact with the phone and why it's a joy to use relates to some of the hardware choices Apple went with the XS Max. The 6.5-inch Super Retina HD OLED display underscores Apple's commitment to premium components, and the display is gorgeous. Images and text come off super sharp, colors are vibrant and accurately calibrated, and the ability to enjoy true blacks and contrast that comes with an OLED really makes for a pleasing viewing experience. Everything from watching videos, playing games, and even just reading text and using social media is really enhanced by the phone's display, especially considering just how immersive it is. The high screen-to-body ratio on an iPhone this size makes it really easy to get addicted to, even if you're not a big phone type of person. I will say though, with such a great display and so much real estate, it is a bit frustrating that Apple doesn't figure out a way to leverage them better, much like how Android has in their software. Seems like a wasted opportunity that hopefully Apple will jump on as they continue to refine their software. So as great as the XS Max's display is, it comes with one rather polarizing caveat: the notch. In order for Apple to house the front-facing camera components and Face ID hardware, it took the beautiful OLED panel and cut out a notch on the top, which of course caused a hailstorm of debate on the interwebs. Now, after 6 months of dealing with this design decision, I can honestly say that you really don't notice it after a few minutes of using the phone. Sure, it may be more intrusive than the popular hole punch design being used today, but it's really not as big of a nuisance as it comes off to be. And man, if the notch is the price to pay for Face ID, Apple's primary safety feature, then I say it's well worth it. Now, Face ID is one of the features on this phone that I've had a 180 on, given that I wasn't the biggest fan when the technology was first introduced, but man, I was wrong. Face ID is probably one of my favorite features, and really to me, it's the fastest and simplest way to lock and unlock your phone. I mentioned this in my comparison video with the Galaxy S10 Plus. Face ID is really easy to underappreciate because it works in a way that makes it seem like it's not even there. As soon as you press the power button, the depth sensors automatically start mapping out the contours of your face, and the phone quietly and discreetly unlocks. You don't press anything, no overt animations or haptic feedback, and you swipe up and it's business as usual. It's fast enough not to feel slow, and it gets more and more accurate each time you use it, and really you only start to appreciate Face ID after you go back to a phone that doesn't have it. Now I will say the drawback here is that it's way more frustrating when for some reason it can't recognize you, but it's been reliable enough to where those circumstances have been rare, at least in my experience over the past 6 months. Okay, so the last feature on the XS Max that has really stood out to me over the past 6 months are its cameras. Now I've said this multiple times, but Apple has made some serious gains on their image quality on their newest phones, and it's really noticeable. Smart HDR isn't just a gimmick with a catchy name, as it's clear that the dynamic range and the color science on this phone is the best that an iPhone has ever had. The A12 Bionic chip plays a big part in making the use of this technology as seamless as using any other smartphone camera, but the amount of quality you're getting in your pictures is truly one of the main selling points of this phone. Being able to have portrait mode on both the front and back cameras is great, and they've really worked on getting that feature more buttoned up. And honestly, you're going to be pretty satisfied with most of the pictures that you take with the XS Max, and if you're intentional about it, the phone has the ability to take some pro-level quality photos, which is pretty incredible. Now I'll go on the record and say that it's not the best smartphone camera available today, and where the XS Max's cameras suffer is more in their limited functionality. The lack of a super wide-angle lens and a wide-angle selfie camera, and no dedicated night mode, can start to make the phone feel its age. Hopefully we'll see some of these features in Apple's updates to their phones this year. Okay, so for the most part, I've thoroughly enjoyed my time with the XS Max up to this point, and I'll reiterate what I said at the beginning of this video. This is probably one of the best, if not the best iPhone I've ever used. But is it worth the $1,200 I dropped on it? To be completely honest, even after 6 months of using this phone and loving it, I really can't say that it's worth the money. And the primary reason why is that you can get other phones out there that offer so much more value. The iPhone XR, for example, would give me pretty much 95% of what I said I enjoyed about the XS Max at a considerable discount. So despite being an outstanding phone, definitely one of the best out there today, it's still really hard to justify that price. But hey, those are my thoughts. Want to get your opinion. Do you guys think that the iPhone XS Max is worth it? If so, let me know why. And if not, let me know in the comments which phone you think is a better alternative. Curious to see which phone gets the most mentions. Okay, that's about it for this review. Don't forget to leave me a thumbs up if you guys found it useful. It really helps me out. If you guys have any questions about the XS Max, let me know in the comments and I'll be sure to get to them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.